Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back, learning something from me. So this may be one of the most important videos I make and one of the most important videos you come across. We're gonna be setting up your entire fat loss diet step by step. I'm gonna break it down, make it super simple for you, and we're gonna set up your fat loss diet, everything involved, what you need to do after the diet, everything you need to know to set up everything. I'm gonna be using my numbers as examples. You're gonna follow along, so I recommend right now pausing the video, going to get a notepad or something where you can write down all these calculations and whatnot, because we're gonna be going over everything in this video. So by now, if you've been following me on any one of my platforms, I talk about energy balance a lot and how the amount of calories you're taking in is going to drive your weight. You have to be in a calorie deficit if you want to see fat loss. So that's the most important thing that's gonna be underlying your whole fat loss diet. That needs to happen. If that doesn't happen and you're not in a calorie deficit, you will not lose weight or fat, okay? That's just has to be known. You have to do that. You could do every single thing right, like eat zero sugar, all this crap, but you will not lose weight unless you're in a calorie deficit. So we have to know that. You have to know that. Write that on the piece of paper right now. A calorie deficit is needed for fat loss. Okay, so we're all on the same page here. We know that we have to be in a calorie deficit if we want to lose weight. So where do we go from here? Well, the first thing you need to do is calculate your maintenance calories. And people have a lot of ways of going about this. There's a lot of equations out there. There's a lot of calculators. This is my method that I have found to be fairly accurate and works very well. A lot of people agree on this method. So first thing you want to do is, pay attention to the screen here. So you're going to go to caloriecalculator.net. I have found this to be one of the most accurate sites, one of the most accurate calorie calculators out there. You're gonna put in the appropriate information. I just put in my information. I'm 20, male, I'm 5'10". I weigh around 210 pounds and I'm moderately active. So I'd calculate that and I'd get around 2,900 calories as my maintenance calories. So that's the first step. You need to get that from the calculator. Okay, so I don't just want you to go eat at that amount of maintenance calories, because the calculator may be off by a few hundred calories or whatever. Like, everyone is very individual and their caloric needs vary. So the calculator is just like a guess to put you in the ballpark. What I want you to do is eat at this amount of calories a calorie calculator tells you to eat for 2 weeks and monitor your weight. See if you're gaining or losing weight. Guys, this 2-week period of monitoring your weight, eating at what the calorie calculator tells you to eat, is so crucial, okay? It could be off by 300 calories. It could be right on. Like, there's so much individual variability, so many things going on that can influence your maintenance calorie requirements. So you have to do this 2-week trial and error period. Monitor your weight every single day and take the overall trend for the week. So take the weekly average of 7 days and then compare it to the next week. If your weight is roughly the same, like pretty similar, then that's probably a good estimate for your maintenance calories. But if it's really off, or you gained a ton of weight or you lost a lot of weight, then you're gonna have to adjust it. Okay, so how do we know how to adjust our calories if we gained or lost weight, if we were eating at that amount the calorie calculator told us to eat? So you have to do this based on the amount of weight you gained or lost in this 2-week period. So pay attention to the screen here. I'm gonna use an example for me. So if I gained a pound of fat, or a pound of weight, which is most likely fat, in that 2-week period, what I'm gonna do, because 1 pound is 0.45 kilograms. So you're gonna take 0.45 times 0.87, because body fat is not 100% lipid, it's 87% lipid. That's not really important for you. Just know that you have to multiply it by 0.87, and you're gonna get the number, and then you're gonna multiply that number by 1,000, and that comes out to 391 calories above my maintenance I was eating. So if I gained a pound eating 391 pounds above my maintenance based on this calculation, my maintenance would be 391 calories less than what I was eating. So it would be around 2,500 or 2,509 would be a better estimate for my maintenance calories if I gained 1 pound over that 2-week span, okay? Still with me here? And if I lost a pound, I would do the same thing, so it would be 391 calories, but I ate too little. So I ate 391 calories less than my maintenance based on this calculation. So what I would do is add 391 calories, and that would be a better approximation of my maintenance calories, and that would put me around 3,291 calories, which would be a lot better of an approximation of my maintenance calories. The calorie calculator should be fairly accurate, but you really want to do this trial and error period. Rewatch this section if you need. You just need to take the amount of weight you lost in kilograms, multiply that by 0.87. You're gonna get a number, and then multiply that by 1,000, and that's the amount of calories you need to adjust based on if you gained or lost that amount of weight in kilograms. All right, so the next step is determining our weekly rate of weight loss. So how much of a calorie deficit should we be in? And this is super important because you don't want to be in like this massive calorie deficit. If you do that, you're probably going to lose some muscle, be extremely hungry, and not be able to stick to your diet. You want to have that sweet spot where you're losing weight at an appreciable rate, like you're actually happy with how fast you're losing it, but you're not losing it at the expense of muscle loss and feeling hungry and not sustaining it. So you have to find that balance. And what I usually recommend, and most experts recommend, losing around 0.5 to 1% of your body weight a week. For more obese people who have more fat to lose, you can go closer to 1%, maybe even bump it up to 1.5% in extreme cases. And if you're leaner and have lower body fat to start, you should stick to more of a 0.5% weight loss per week, because that's gonna help you retain more muscle, because the leaner you are, the more muscle loss you can expect if you're in a big calorie deficit. So you wanna make sure the calorie deficit is appropriate for you. Okay, so now let's run through my specific example, and we're gonna assume that 2,900 calories is my maintenance, because it actually is. And we're gonna assume that I didn't gain or lose weight in that 2-week trial and error period, and the calorie calculator was fairly accurate. So I have quite a bit of body fat right now. I've been bulking for a while, so I can lose weight at a little bit of a faster rate than someone who is leaner. So I'm gonna go in the middle of 0.5 to 1% loss a week. I'm gonna go with 0.7% of my body weight lost a week. Now what I'm gonna do here is take 0.007, because that's 0.7%, times my body weight, which is currently 210 pounds, and that's gonna be 1.47 pounds loss a week. So that's how much weight in pounds I'm going to lose in a week, or that I want to aim for to lose in 1 week. Hey guys, so we've established that I want to lose 1.47 pounds of fat, hopefully, a week. That's my rate of weekly weight loss. Now, we want to see how big of a calorie deficit we should be in to lose at that rate of weekly weight loss. So what you're gonna do here is you need to understand the 3,500 calorie rule. So 1 pound of fat approximately has 3,500 calories. So if I wanna lose 1.47 pounds of fat a week, I'm gonna multiply 1.47 times 3,500, and that's gonna give me 5,145 calories I need to eat less a week. So that's my net calorie deficit, 5,145 calories. Now to see how much or how big a calorie deficit I need to eat on a day, I'm gonna take 5,145, divide that by 7, because there's 7 days in a week, and that's gonna give me a net daily deficit of 735 calories. So every single day for a week, if I wanna lose 1.47 pounds of fat, I need to eat 735 calories less than my maintenance calories, which was 2,900 calories. Now we need to determine our daily average calories to lose at that weight. So we know how big our deficit is. We know our maintenance calories from our trial and error and the calorie calculator estimation. So what we're gonna do is take our maintenance calories minus our daily deficit, which we said was 735, and our maintenance calories was 2,900. So we're gonna take 2,900 minus 735, and that's gonna give us 2,165 daily calories we need to eat to lose 1.47 pounds of fat a week. Okay, so now we have all of our calories calculated. We know how many calories we need to eat to lose weight at the appropriate weight we decided, okay? So that's sorted. Now we want to divvy up our calories into the 3 macronutrients. And if you don't know what your macronutrients are, you should by now from listening to me talk all the time, but they are your calories, okay? They provide you with energy. There's protein, carbs, and fats. And we want to divvy up our calories appropriately to maximize muscle retention, make sure we're feeling good, satiated, and a bunch of other factors I'm gonna get into. But we wanna make sure we're getting enough protein, enough carbs, and enough fats, and optimize those certain ratios. And we're still gonna hit our calorie goal, okay? We're gonna take our, whatever calories we have, and we're gonna divvy it up into those 3 macronutrients. There is a 4th macronutrient, alcohol, but we're gonna assume you're not having any alcohol right now. Okay, so the first macro we wanna deal with is protein. And you always hear about protein. Protein is super important for body composition. It's gonna help you build muscle and retain muscle in a calorie deficit. It's also gonna keep you really full and satiated. So you wanna make sure you're getting an adequate protein. And that's why we're gonna do it first, because it's the most important for body composition. So it's actually fairly easy what you could do for your protein intake. You should just eat around 1 gram per pound of your body weight of protein. So for example, I weigh 210 pounds. I would eat roughly 210 grams of protein. It's pretty simple. That's a really good estimate. You could go a little higher and do 1.1 grams per pound of body weight of protein if you wanted to, but 1 gram per pound is probably more than safe enough. It's probably a little more than you need, but that's a really good estimate to go by. I always recommend that if you're cutting, you're bulking, that's a really good protein intake to hit. It's really easy to remember as well. So just if I weigh 210 pounds, I'm gonna eat 210 grams of protein. If you weigh 100 pounds, you're gonna eat around 100 grams of protein, and that should be sufficient for you. All right, so make sure you're all cut up here. You have your protein intake. It's around 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you're a little above or a little below, it's perfectly fine. I just use that as a rough estimate. It's usually sufficient for everybody, and it's just what I usually tell my clients. So if you wanna use exactly 1 gram per pound of body weight, do so. If you wanna go a little lower, like 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, or a little higher, like 1.1, 1.2, it's not really gonna make that big of a difference. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is calculate our fat and carb macros. Now, I want to let you know the ratio of these macros. If you take in more fat, you take in more carb, and the ratio, it equals out to the exact same amount of calories, it's not gonna make a difference for fat loss. If you're eating the exact same amount of calories, no matter if you're getting high fat, high carb, it's not gonna make a difference. It's gonna come down to the overall calories. Now, low carb preachers are going to disagree with this, but the evidence does not support this at all, okay? You can eat a high carb diet, low fat diet, high fat diet, low carb diet, whatever your personal preference is, and hit the exact same amount of daily calories, and you're gonna lose at the exact same rate, because it will always come down to the amount of calories. So I wanted to get that out of the way first before we dive into these calculations. Now, I usually calculate my fat macros first, because they are an essential macronutrient, and you wanna make sure you're getting in a baseline level of fats. Carbs are not essential. You can survive without them. That's why people can go on the ketogenic diet. You don't need carbs to survive and get energy. You can get them from fats, but fats you need. They have a ton of functions in the body, so I can dive into that in another video if you guys wanna learn more about that, but just know you need a baseline level of fats for optimal health. So what I usually recommend is eating around 20 to 35% of your daily caloric intake should be allocated to fats. So that many calories, 20 to 35% of your total calories for the day should be coming from fats. What I usually take personally is around 25% of my calories, okay? So what I would do is take 0.25 times that by my daily calories, which we said was 2,165, if you recall, and that's gonna equal 541 calories that are coming from fats. Now, what we need to do here to figure out how many grams of fat we need is we need to do 541 divided by 9. Now, before you get super confused, we're dividing by 9 because fats have 9 calories in 1 gram, okay? 1 gram of fat has 9 calories, and that's why we're dividing the total amount of calories coming from fats divided by 9. And that's gonna give us the amount of fats we want to eat for the day. So that's gonna give us 60 grams of fat. 60 grams of fat is 25% of my total calories. So that's how much fat I would be eating. But let's say you wanted 35% of fat, because you know you enjoy your fats, you like that a lot more than going insanely high in carbs. So you want 35% of your calories to come from fats. You can do that. So given my example, all you do is the same thing, 0.35, because that's the decimal form of the percentage, 0.35 times 2,165, because that we figured out that was my daily calories. And that's gonna give us 759. Then we do that amount of calories, divide that by 9, because there's 9 calories per 1 gram of fat, and that's gonna give us 84 grams of fat to eat. So if I wanted 35% of my total calories coming from fats, that would be 80 grams of fat instead of 60. But personally, I stick to a higher carb diet, pretty much the higher carb diet for me. I just like it more. I like my carbs. It's just personal preference. If you want to go higher in fat, that's completely up to you. Figure out what you like. You might have to do some experimentation. Maybe you're tracking and you notice you're wanting to go over on fats, so maybe you can adjust them after you do some trial and error if this is your first time tracking your macros. So now we're gonna figure out how many carbs in grams we want to eat, and this is actually fairly simple. So what we're gonna do is actually take our total daily caloric intake, which we said for me was 2,165, and we're gonna subtract the amount of calories coming from fats and protein. Okay, so 2,165 minus 840, because 840 represents 210 times 4, which is the amount of calories coming from protein. And then we're gonna minus 540, because that's the amount of calories coming from fats, which you get from doing 60 times 9. So 2,165 minus 840 minus 540, that's gonna give us 785 calories for carbs. That's the amount of calories left over for carbs. And to find out the amount of calories or the amount of carbs in grams we need to do 785 divided by 4. We divide by 4 because there's 4 calories in 1 gram of carbs, and that's gonna give us 196 grams of carbs for me personally, my example, to eat. Okay, so you take your total daily calories minus the amount of calories coming from protein, minus the amount of calories coming from fats. You're gonna be left over with the amount of calories that are gonna come from carbs to fit your daily caloric intake. And you're gonna take the amount of calories coming from carbs divided by 4, and that's gonna give you the amount of carbs you need to eat in grams. Okay, so congrats, we did the hard part. We did our calories and our specific macronutrient distribution for our personal preferences. Now, we're gonna have to adjust these if our fat loss phase is going to be a significant time, which it usually is for most people. If you're just doing a short fat loss phase, you just have a little bit of fat to lose, you may not even need to make adjustments to these calories and the specific macronutrient distribution. But if you're going for a long fat loss phase and you have a lot of fat to lose over a few months, you're probably gonna have to make adjustments because your metabolism will adapt to you being in a calorie deficit. When you're giving your body less calories than it needs, it thinks it's starving, okay? So it's going to lower the amount of calories you actually need in a day. So your maintenance calories, let's say mine was, for the example, 2,900. This will drop slowly over time as I'm in a calorie deficit. And what we did already is make sure our calorie deficit is not too big by picking up an appropriate rate of weight loss a week. So we've already done that, but there's only so much we can do. As we lose overall body weight, we will require less calories. That's just the way it is. So what we need to do now is make adjustments accordingly to our body weight, how much we're losing, and etc. over time. And I'm gonna tell you exactly how to do that so we can make sure we're still losing weight. So when you're eating at this amount of calories and you realize you're no longer losing weight after you've lost quite a bit of weight on these calories, you hit a massive plateau, you're stunned, you're like, what the hell's going on? There's only 2 things you can do. You can either decrease the amount of calories you're taking in or increase the amount of calories you're burning, because you want to increase the calorie deficit. Since your maintenance calories dropped because you lost overall weight, that's just gonna happen. There's really nothing you can do about it. It will drop to some extent. I will get into some ways to mitigate how much it will drop, but other than that, like, there's only so much you can do. You have to know that it will drop as you lose weight, okay? So there's different strategies for making adjustments. I'm gonna give you mine, which I found to be great. A lot of people agree on this, so I'm gonna give you everything I do personally, and you can apply this as well, and I totally recommend you do the same. So you do not want to start out with too much cardio. Everyone will agree on this. You do not want to start with too much cardio. I cannot emphasize this enough. When people say they're going on a diet, usually they cut calories and they do a shit ton of cardio. Don't do that. Don't do a shit ton of cardio. I'm in a calorie deficit right now for my food and I'm doing no cardio. Zero. Because I want to add it in strategically over time as I'm trying to lose weight in my fat loss phase, okay? So you need to leave room to add cardio sessions. You can't just be starting with like 6. Where's the room to add more? You're gonna do 7 and then you're gonna do like 2 times a week or 2 times a day type stuff. Like, no, that's just gonna be terrible. If you're doing too much cardio, it's gonna hinder your progress in the gym and you're probably gonna end up losing more muscle because of it. So you just don't want to do too much cardio, and you especially do not want to start with too much cardio. You can start with a few sessions, like 1 or 2 for baseline cardio, sure, if you like doing your cardio like that, but don't start with like 6, okay? I just don't recommend that. Please do not do that. Okay, so if you're doing 2 cardio sessions a week, let's just say you are, your baseline level of cardio, you do this regardless of if you're in a fat loss phase, you're trying to lose fat or not, you just do 2 sessions a week, which is perfectly fine that you do this. First thing I want you to do when you hit a plateau is add in a cardio session, okay? Add in like 30 minutes on the Stairmaster. Add in 1 more cardio session. You don't need to track the calories burned from this cardio session. Just add 1 or 2 cardio sessions throughout the week. It doesn't matter when you do them, as long as you get them in throughout the week, okay? So you were doing 2, now you're doing 3 or 4. And you're gonna monitor your weight, see if you're losing at an appropriate weight rate for yourself. And if you're not, then you can drop your calories. So I recommend, first off, you add in the cardio and then you drop your calories, okay? So you add 1 or 2 sessions of cardio and then drop your calories if you're not losing at the appropriate weight. So you drop your calories by 200, okay? That's pretty much all you do. You're just increasing the deficit. It's not like rocket science. You just need to make sure you're constantly increasing the calorie deficit because your maintenance calories will slowly drop over time. Okay, so what happens if you hit another plateau, which might happen if your maintenance calories drop even more? You're just gonna do the same thing. You're gonna add in like 1 or 2 cardio sessions and drop your calories by like 200 if needed. Okay, you have to, if you don't need to drop your calories, don't drop them. It really depends. It's hard to give you exact numbers because everyone's gonna lose weight at different rates. It really depends. So if you notice you're not losing at the appropriate rate, then you can drop your calories more with the added cardio. But if you're losing at a good rate with your, let's say 4 sessions of cardio a week, and you were thinking about dropping your calories, you don't need to anymore because you're losing at that rate and maybe you thought you wouldn't, okay? So don't just drop them for the sake of dropping them. Drop them strategically if you're not losing weight, okay? If you're losing weight, you don't need to drop them even further. Don't mess something up if it's working. Now, there is a cap on the cardio I would recommend. I don't recommend going more than like 5 or 6 sessions. 6 is pushing it. Like, I will not go past 5 sessions because my gym performance is very important to me. If you want to maintain the most amount of muscle possible in a calorie deficit and even possibly gain some as a new lifter, you want to do the least amount of cardio possible to still lose weight. Does that make sense? You still want to lose weight at the appropriate rate, but do the least amount of cardio possible. You don't just want to overboard everything. You don't want to just cut calories and add in a shit ton of cardio. No, you just want to do everything super slow, and if it's working, don't touch it, okay? If you're losing weight at the same calories you were a month ago and it's still at a good rate, don't touch it. So I've talked about metabolic adaptation, how your maintenance calories and your caloric requirements will decrease as you continue to lose weight and you're in a calorie deficit. So you guys understand that. Now, how can we mitigate this the best we can? And there's a few strategies you can use that I personally will use during my fat loss phase, and I totally recommend you add them in because no one wants their maintenance calories to just drop like crazy, and these will definitely help mitigate it to some certain extent. They aren't magical tools that just make sure your maintenance calories is always super high as you lose weight. That's just not possible. That's not gonna happen, but these can help mitigate it. So the first technique you can use to help mitigate metabolic adaptation are what people call diet breaks. Diet breaks are essentially a period of time where you're eating at your maintenance calories, okay? So this is a break from being in a calorie deficit. It's a diet break. The term's kind of confusing. When people think diet break, they think, oh, break from my diet, eat whatever the hell I want. No, it's still super controlled. You're just bumping your calories up to your maintenance. That's pretty much it. And this is gonna help mitigate some of those negative effects you see from being in a calorie deficit. And it can help retain more muscle during a calorie deficit. So throughout the whole time, let's say your diet's 3 months and you add in some diet breaks, it can help you mitigate muscle loss more than if you just had a straight calorie deficit, although it will take more time because you're eating at your maintenance calories, right? You're not losing weight, so that's the only downside. But these definitely should be added in if you have a long fat loss phase, longer than I'd probably say 3 months or so. If your fat loss phase is around 3 months or longer, I would recommend adding in a diet break, so a period where you're just eating at your maintenance every 4 to 8 weeks. You can auto-regulate these. If you're really feeling like you need one and you're like feeling like absolute dog shit, maybe add one in. So to add these in, you may need to recalculate your maintenance calories depending on how much weight you lost. So you just use an online calculator and get a rough estimate of your new maintenance calories. So it could have dropped from 2,900 to 2,700. You wouldn't eat 2,900, you would eat 2,700, because if you're eating 2,900, that would be a surplus for you. It's no longer your maintenance, okay? So you need at 2,700 calories, and let's say you were eating 2,100 calories, you just add in 600 calories on top of what you were eating during your dieting, your calorie deficit days, and that would put you at your maintenance calories. Now, the amount, let's say you had 600 calories in to get to your maintenance, you would distribute these calories throughout your carbs and your fats. You don't need to touch protein. Your protein's fine. Just split up these calories through carbs and fats, whatever you want. If you want to add in a ton more carbs and just the whole 600 be from carbs, you can do that. If you want it to be to fat, you can do that. I just recommend distributing them equally. It's really dependent on personal preference. Like I already said, the carb and fat ratios won't matter for fat loss as long as calories are equated. These can be very, very useful tools. Just know they're not a binge fest. They're really controlled, okay? They're just at your maintenance, that's it. It's not a complete break from your diet. You're still dieting, you still have to track. Just don't think of it as like a diet break as most people would. Just think of it as like a tool to help mitigate metabolic adaptation. That's how you should see it, and it's going to benefit you in the long term and make sure you can actually eat more calories and lose weight on more calories in the end. So the second method you can use to help mitigate metabolic adaptation is by adding in what we call refeed days. And essentially refeed days are high calorie days where you add in calories from your deficit up to your maintenance. So you eat at your maintenance calories for 1 or 2 or 3 days a week. And this is different from a diet break because you're still gonna see the same weekly weight loss. Because what you do is you have high calorie days and you take calories off of your lower calorie days. So your weekly calories are gonna be the same. You're still gonna lose at the same rate, but you're gonna have higher calorie days where you eat close to your maintenance calories or even in a small surplus, and mainly by increasing carbohydrates. And you have to lower the amount of calories you eat on the other days. So for me, for this example, I wanna pick 2 high calorie days. So 2 out of 7 are high calorie, and then 5 are gonna be my low calorie days. First thing we want to do is determine the weekly calories, okay? Weekly calories we would normally have without our high and low calorie days, without the refeeds. So we determined from my example that I would be eating 2,165 calories to lose weight at the rate I want to lose weight at. So what you're gonna do here is do 2,165 times 7, because there's 7 days in a week, and we're gonna get the amount of calories I need to eat to lose at that rate for the whole week. This is the amount of calories the whole week I'm taking in, and it's 15,155. So that was the first step. The second step, we wanna choose the number of high calorie days we wanna have. So for me, I chose 2. I usually recommend around 2. You can do 1 if you want. 2 or 3 you can get up to as well. You can do that, but 2 is a nice sweet spot, and you wanna put them together. That's super important, have them together. So Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, try and have them together. Third step, choose the high calorie day calories. And what I usually recommend is going up to your maintenance calories or really close. So for me, my example, my maintenance calories were 2,900. So on 2 days for a week, I would increase my calories up to 2,900 calories. Fourth step, determine the weekly calories coming from the high calorie days. So what you would do here, for my example, is take 2,900 times 2, because we're having 2 high calorie days of 2,900 calories per day, and that's gonna give us 5,800 calories coming from our high calorie days only. So 2 days a week, we're eating total 5,800 calories for high calorie days. Now, the fifth step, what we wanna do here is subtract the calories from our high calorie days from weekly calories. So our weekly calories we determined was 15,155. We're gonna do is 15,155 minus 5,800, and that's gonna give us the amount of calories we need to eat on our low calorie days, which is 9,355. So that's the amount of calories for all 5 of those low calorie days, okay? Stay with me here. That's the amount of calories coming from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's say that's an example, but that would be the amount of calories you spread out over that day. So the next step, you would divide the amount of low calorie calories, so all the calories for the low calorie days, by the amount of low calorie days. So 9,355 divided by 5, because we said we're picking 2 high calorie days. So the rest of the week are gonna be low calorie days. So that would give us, for my example, 1,871 calories on my low calorie days. So that's how many calories I would eat on my low calorie days, and I would be eating 2,900 calories on my 2 high calorie days. And this is gonna come out to the exact same weekly calorie deficit, weekly calories I'm taking in, as if I was just gonna have 2165 every single day for 7 days. It's the exact same rate of weight loss. You're just having high calorie and low calorie days. So if you like days where you can eat a lot more calories, this is a good method to try out, but you just don't wanna go overboard where you're having like an insane amount of calories on your high calorie days and like no calories on your low calorie days. I do not recommend that. I just recommend going up to maintenance on your high calorie days, which I usually recommend is 2, and then you subtract that off your weekly calories and do what I just said for the whole steps, and you'll be able to get your low calorie days and your high calorie days, and it'll be all set for you. So the next thing we need to set up for our fat loss diet is like, how are we actually going to monitor our progress? How are we gonna see if we're actually losing fat? And this is mainly done by using the scale. And I know some people may not like the scale, but it is a very useful tool to see progress. What I want you to do is take your weight every single day if you can. You can do 3 days a week if you would rather do that and it messes with your head, sure, do it less. I recommend though, every single day in the morning, naked, you went to the bathroom and done everything, same conditions, and you weigh yourself every morning, and then you take the weekly average, and then you compare week to week. Do not compare day to day, because there will be daily fluctuations, especially for women. So don't compare day to day. Don't worry about that at all. Compare week to week. And if you see the trend is going down at an appropriate rate similar to the one you calculated, then that is a very good sign we have set everything up properly. If you're not losing at that rate anymore, then that means we're probably gonna have to adjust something. And like I said, we can do that by increasing our cardio or decreasing the amount of calories from food. Also, progress pictures are going to be very useful for monitoring progress. I do not want you to get carried away with looking at yourself in the mirror every single day and be like, oh my God, I didn't lose fat today. That's not going to happen. You're not going to lose like a shit ton of fat overnight. It's a slow process. That's what we want to help maintain our muscle and maybe even grow some. But look at yourself week to week. Take weekly progress pictures, or even monthly, like depending on how much fat you lose. But weekly would be great, and compare yourself week to week. Use the same lighting, same time of day, same everything. Try and do everything the exact same poses, same flexing, like everything has to be the same. If not, things are gonna be different. You can really manipulate how you look in pictures. So try and keep a lot of variables very constant and very similar when you're taking photos. And these can be a very good tool to help measure progress. You can get someone else to look at them if you think you are biased and you just like are gonna say you're fat no matter what, because most people do. So get your mom, get your dad, get your brother to look at them and see if they think you're making progress visually. Now you can measure your body fat percentage, but I usually don't make this required for my clients. Personally, I think it's very inaccurate. A lot of the measurements are so unreliable, and if you're doing it by yourself, it's gonna be fairly unreliable unless you have a lot of experience doing it and you know someone who has a lot of experience and they can do it for you. A lot of people just can't do it consistently and can't get a consistent measurement. Like they can measure one time, saying they're 15%, then the next time they do it, they're 18. Like how is that's not helping. It's just gonna mess with your head. So I usually don't recommend it. If you're very good at it and can use the calipers, the body fat measuring tape things, very accurate, then you can use that. But other than that, I don't make it a requirement, because a lot of people just care way too much about their body fat percentage, and you should just use the scale and your visual progress as more so the indicators if you need to make adjustments or whatnot. All right, so you should have your fat loss diet fully set up. You should know how to make adjustments, how to monitor progress, how to mitigate metabolic adaptation, and everything I just talked about. And if you don't, Comment down below and I will try and help you out best I can. Of course, people will may be confused and that's perfectly fine. Don't feel like you should know everything. I just give you a ton of information. It's a lot. I try to make this video as simple as I could. So I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe. I'm gonna be pumping out really good content, really useful content for you. I feel like everyone's just pumping out fluff content all the time and I'm so sick of it. No one can apply it. So I hope I really brought you value with this. Also, I just released my returning program. So if you're going back to the gym and you don't want to get injured and you want to properly transition into your old PRs and your old weights, you need this program. Seriously, it's free on my website. I'll have the link in the description. Use it, okay? It's free, so take advantage and use it. Don't just jump into your old weights. Use this returning program, guys. And I will definitely see you in the next video. See you later, guys.